from the All Indiana Podcast Network.
It's time for real conversation about the real issues that affect our communities.
Poverty, education, equality, and more.
This is Real Talk.
Real Talk with Reverend Charles Harrison.
Welcome to Real Talk on the All Indiana Podcast Network. I'm Reverend Charles Harrison, and on this episode, we will conclude our conversation about the status of Black America. This will be part 4 as we deal with solutions to many of the issues that affect our community. Welcome to Real Talk on the All Indiana Podcast Network, and I am Reverend Charles Harrison, and it is certainly a joy to be with you again on today. As we finish up, our whole conversation that we have been doing on the status of Black America in 2024, as we look back on the progress of Black America since the 1960s during the Civil Rights movement. And we've been talking about whether or not Blacks have progressed as a people, and we've been focusing on the areas that we felt like there's been progress among Black America, and then the areas where we have somewhat stayed stagnant, and then in the areas where we may have digressed. And with me, once again today, are two good friends, Annette Johnson, who is the Pike Township Trustee, and John Hall, who is the former Deputy Mayor of Indianapolis under Mayor Stephen Goldsmith. So welcome, Annette and John.
Good to see you. Hello. Thank you.
Listen, we've been getting a lot of good comments concerning our conversation, and I think this is an important conversation that we're having about Black America. I have lived through all of the years that we're talking about, because I was born in 1960 when we still had segregation in a small southern Indiana town right on the Ohio River, Jeffersonville. I was not far away from just crossing the bridge into a southern city, during those times. And certainly, there's been progress made since, I was born in 1960. We've really had a real good conversation, and particularly in the last podcast where we talked about, how do we rebuild the Black family and improve education? And we've really focused on the solutions in those two areas. Today we want to, focus on two other areas, or two or three other areas. One is certainly can urban violence be reduced? And we've kind of talked about, certainly in that area, we have regressed as a people in that area. And then one that I'm really interested in is reducing poverty and blighted neighborhoods. What can be done, particularly when it comes to the urban core? And you see it no matter what city you go to, in America today. You get into the urban core, and you see, sadly, boarded up homes, businesses that particularly factories that are no longer operating in these urban cities. And it's just the blight that you see, and where there's blight, then there tends to be crime and violence, and can we, what are the solutions to these blighted neighborhoods and the poverty that still too many in Black America are experiencing? John and Annette, you want to take that first, and let's have a real conversation about that.
All right. Well, again, thank you, Pastor Harrison, for this opportunity to talk about these important issues. And like you said, we've had 4 weeks to really dive into it. And, what really comes to play is, how do we fix it? I was reading some articles, and from the articles that I read, each of them said it has to be tackled aggressively.
Okay.
That's the only way.
Right.
I mean, we putting Band-Aids over things, it's not going to work. So that made me think, how do we do that aggressively? Because it's saying that's what we got to do. We got to make some really swift, major changes. And, we want to be living in communities where we feel safe. And a lot of times, people just don't feel safe in these communities. And you see the crime and nobody will speak up. But we got to somehow get the messages across to the people. And then I would say the individuals that are in the policy making, they make these different policies and things like that. But they're going to have to change some things very aggressively.
When I first started doing 10 Point, which was 1999, one of the areas that we focused on, and I think there was about 7 or 8 areas on the west side, was, John, in the area around 16th and College. I think they called it Citizens back then, and we went all the way down to 22nd, 23rd in College. And that was at that time one of the hottest areas in the city. We would deal on a Friday night. We're walking down College at 10 o'clock at nighttime. A lot of prostitution, at that time, but there was a lot of gangs, and you had gangs and drug dealers operating in that area. But one of the things that was done by the city was very aggressive, and maybe you can really kind of talk about what was done to really change the whole dynamics of that area that used to once be one of the hotspot areas in the city when it came to crime and violence, and it was blighted.
Dodge City.
Yeah, Dodge City.
Dodge City comes to mind. And I think with 10 Point and other faith-based groups and public groups and the partnership with the police, you have to initially decrease that crime.
Okay.
And I believe that was the first major approach to try to lower the violence and the crime and that underground economy activity that's going on in an area. Once you begin to lower that, and that could be increased policing, community policing, it is 10 Point and other groups being in the neighborhood, making contact, working in partnership with the police and the city and the health departments and everybody. I think that was the critical point.
Okay.
Then it's finding financing that you can utilize. The city during that time wrote a grant to HUD and received $4 million to assemble properties in that area. And so we were able to then pick up a lot of properties next to each other and eventually was able with the developers, we sort of kicked it off. Mayor Peterson and Deputy Mayor Bill Shrewsbury, sort of wrapped it up in a nice package, very good package. But we implemented 350 new properties.
Wow.
In that area.
Wow.
I think that was the key to the success.
Right.
Of changing the whole dynamics. Now, a lot of criticism in that about gentrification, but the piece is, I think there were at least 50 neighbors that got to stay.
Right.
They got some tax abatement, so they didn't have to pay that upward tax property bill for about 6 years. There was an opportunity for them to rehab their properties to kind of bring them up so they could match the neighborhood. But that infusion of those numbers, it changed, and the pioneering effort of those who wanted to live closer to downtown, have less crime, have less contact with violence, spurred an area that now is really, and received many awards about being able to change an urban core area into a viable active neighborhood.
One of the things that I see in that area, and I'm gonna get to what I think failed in Unwa, why the development did not work in Unwa, is that the area now has become a blended area. So you do have $300,000 homes, but yet they tore down the apartment complex right there on 16th Street, 16th and College, and redeveloped it, now where it looks nice. Because when I first saw the development, I thought they were going to be condos, but it changed the look of the area, and now we see more of those kinds of properties being built, so that you have the working poor, you have middle income America, living in the same neighborhood, and we have seen dramatic declines in crime and violence in that neighborhood. But I think the investment was you bought enough properties to bring about a change, which is different from what happened in Unwa. They only built about 30 homes. It wasn't enough homes that were built. So when you talked about being aggressive, if we would have did 300 homes in Unwa, I think you would have saw a different result there. You already had the grocery store, Kroger's there. And as you can tell, more and more development is going on in that area, so it becomes an attractive area for people now to want to move into. And it's now an area where groups like 10 Point no longer has to be in.
Exactly.
Because the neighborhood has been transformed. And I like to say, to me, my solution is blended neighborhoods. And those are hard to create, because most of us grew up, in the 60s and 70s in black neighborhoods, but in those neighborhoods, it represented, all walks of life of black people, whether you were rich or middle class or poor, we all lived in the same neighborhood.
Right.
Which had a lot of positives when the neighborhood was more diverse, when it comes to economics, than putting a bunch of low income people in one neighborhood. Those are the neighborhoods that tend to be the neighborhoods where we see the highest level of crime and violence, and tend in most cases to be blighted. This is just honest conversation we're having. Yeah. So I don't know how we make those kind of investments in the urban core.
Well, I think, you no longer can probably get $4 million from HUD today. But they tried this in Fort Wayne using private funds, the banks, local financial entities, and I think it can be called successful.
Okay.
I forget the name of the area, but I'll have to take you through there one day, Pastor. But it's finding enough. It is the saturation of market rate housing that you can blend in with tax credit properties, which is what they did on 16th Street.
Okay.
And even public housing. Bud Myers, they put up that public housing piece on 16th, right across from the Kroger's.
Exactly.
They got a lot of flack from the old North Side now.
They did.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look like regular public housing.
It doesn't look out of place. It looks in place when you look at it. It looks nice. It fits into all the other development.
Well, that's what has to happen.
Right.
Like you just said.
Right.
If you're going to, talk about the urban core areas, where is the dedication that we're talking about? And that's what we're going to have to go back to. We're going to have to put more dedicating into. You can have it blended.
Right.
But if you put it all together, I just think it'll work. And we see that it is work. I guess what bothers me is we see that these types of communities work. How come we're not just expanding it and we're moving on? You said HUD may not give us that much, but they'll give something. We could split it. Something's coming from HUD, and then the other monies is coming from the private investors, because we're not going to get anywhere. We're going to keep in the same rat race if we don't do the urban blended core type of communities.
Did 16 Tech, what was their development that they did? Does anybody know?
It's pretty much the same.
It's pretty much the
It's
same.
more of a blended. You got the Riverside area that they are really fixing it up to look on a higher end.
Okay.
I mean, but then you got the 16 Tech. You got those condos or apartments where Busch Stadium were.
Yes.
It's kind of planted in the middle there.
Right.
Those are market rate.
Those are market rate. Okay.
So I think that's something that's starting. It's growing, and I think we will see the fruits of that labor in the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, what about on the east side, east of the downtown area that they started working on during the Super Bowl?
You're talking about over by Tech High School.
Yes, over in that area. How has that
looks good too.
Well,
that's another area.
Yeah, and they've been building over there.
They're building and adding.
For a while, but they're mostly market rate though.
Yeah, they put bike lanes in. They got businesses over there, nice little small eateries, things that you can do on the weekends, and I think that's what you were talking about at 16th and College. You have those eateries,
yes,
places for people to go on the weekend with their families and hang out and do little things. And that's what's needed in the Lafayette Square Mall area. Mm-hmm. Just imagine if we had a more of an urban blended core area. We dedicated more to that. And then you have the eateries and the shops. I mean, they had something on the news this morning about, Lafayette Square Mall.
They're going to make a big investment there, aren't they? $1 billion,
over billions. But if they do that, I want them to really be dedicated to a more of a blended urban core type of atmosphere. And I think if we can saturate those across our communities, I think we have something we can work with.
It would seem to me that affordable housing, so that we are not completely regentrifying an area of the city, that you do have residents who have been there a long time still be able to afford, to be in there. And I think it could work. I'm just interested, over in that old Citizens area. It seems like it has been working for quite a while. We're going back to the Peterson administration, and it seems like it's been working. And for instance, my daughter goes over to one of the eateries over there off of what is that, 22nd or 23rd Street going toward New Jersey, somewhere in there. Yeah. She goes over there all the time.
Okay.
There's a little hamburger place over there, and she has a friend. So a lot of her high school friends, they go over there and eat. But I've noticed a lot of people from the neighborhood over there. And there's a lot of eateries over there where people go and shop and eat.
And you're putting money back into the community.
Right,
if you have these types of shops and eateries, think about people, on Friday and Saturday and Sunday, they want someplace to go. But it's just awesome if you can just keep it in your community. You don't have to go all the way up to Carmel. And that's what I tell people in Pike Township. I don't want to go all the way to Carmel. I don't want to go to Whitestown. I want to stay right here and do those type of things. And how come we cannot provide that in our community? So, Pike Township would be a great, I would say, piece to work on and see if we could get there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're seeing it. I would say also in Mapleton Fall Creek neighborhood, Crown Hill. That's more private investors investing, but we see the changing in the housing, which is, I'm going to make the argument, is impacting crime too. As you're blending these neighborhoods, we don't have the same crime challenges in Crown Hill that we did 10, 15, 20 years ago. Yeah. It's not the same.
Because people are prided in their community.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Habitat for Humanity did an extraordinary job there in Crown Hill. And the Indianapolis Neighborhood Housing Partnership. I think it's a collaboration of those kind of nonprofit entities that are expert in bringing together finance and individuals that are ready to have some home ownership, that really can work, but it's also at law enforcement that can keep crime at a minimum, where you feel safe.
Right.
And that's, like you talk about in Unwa, they got a new name for Unwa, don't they?
Yes, the near northwest area.
Near northwest area.
Near northwest area, yes.
I think the developers put like 30 new homes along 30th Street.
Yeah, just wasn't enough.
And
Yeah, they're just right there. on
they
that
began
30.
to break into them.
Yeah, that's right. That's
And
right.
it discouraged, I believe, in my opinion, any more pioneering coming in, settling,
Right, it did.
by individuals that wanted a better quality of life.
Well, I think there were several challenges there because I know there were members within Barnes Church who were interested in moving in the neighborhood by the church. Their two big issues was, at that time, what was it? Double 8 was not the kind of grocery store that they wanted in their neighborhood, and that there was no drugstores. So part of the challenge is when you start talking about if you want middle class people to move into a neighborhood, well, what's challenging today is they want a drugstore or a
they want
store.
grocery stores.
The grocery
They want
store,
everything.
they want that in the neighborhood, and I think that's a challenge
And
too.
you don't have that over there.
Yeah, we don't have it over there. So
It's a big challenge
Yes.
because they're not coming until the money comes.
right, absolutely.
So when middle class people move in, they got customers.
Yeah, they got
Right.
But if they waiting on John Hall, they're not building the pharmacy or the
Right.
grocery store.
right. I mean, that was a problem over on the east side over there where they had the Cubs at. Remember when they had the Cubs
Meadows,
there over in the Meadows area? They was losing too much money based on the theft and stuff. In the store, and wasn't selling enough bags. Go ahead.
It was I don't think it was the theft, but it was the bags.
Well, that's what they said to us, so they wasn't telling the truth to us. To justify their movement.
Their regular stores were getting $32 a basket. In the Meadows, our shopping patterns, we were only buying $16, and so that hit them. That was a hit. We had a 75,000 square store there in the Meadows, and it probably should have been smaller. The community wanted just what they have in Carmel,
Right.
but that wouldn't necessarily go
Right.
in the Meadows. That's what went down. But it was the bag. It was the bag amount that shrunk their profits. Theft happens.
Yeah.
But they told me theft really didn't.
That's interesting because that was one of the things they tried to say in justifying that, because leaders were not happy that they was pulling it out.
They pulled it out. I think we put about $9 million in infrastructure.
Yes.
But it was the bag.
The
It was the
bag
bag amount that was the big hit. That's not to say that
But if
wasn't a little thievery going on.
But if you'd have had enough $16 bags, would it not have balanced itself out?
I think if the community could have agreed upon a smaller store,
Right.
a smaller base store,
Like what
instead
they're
of
doing now.
75,000 square foot.
Yeah.
Like they're doing.
Safeway's over there now, isn't it?
There's a store on East 38th Street that they just opened up.
Yeah, there's a Safeway there, I think.
Is that a Safeway?
Is it a Safeway right there in that little strip mall area?
I didn't know if it was a market, Walmart or something.
It's something.
Yeah, there's a black ownership in a store on East 38th
Well, that's
Street.
further down.
Yeah,
You
but
talking
it's
about
not.
the one?
It's not a 75,000.
No.
square foot.
There's one. There's two of them. There's two of them. There's one further down there about 38th and Arlington.
Save a lot.
It may be Save a Lot. Something's over there by the
Meadows.
the Meadows. Something's over. I don't know the name of the store because I never shopped there, but I do see it over there. So it's there. It's smaller compared to the Cubs that they had over there.
Right.
And then they had one further down on 38th and around Arlington.
Okay.
And that's the one that's owned by the blacks.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Does it have a name? We don't know the name.
No, I don't know
do
the
we?
name.
I don't know the name, but it's down there. Yeah. So there's two of them now in that area.
Very good.
Yeah, but I think those are the kind of things that need to be done. I think, we got a lot of money from the American Care Act. I wish more of it would have been
For community.
Yeah, for community. It for some people, there seems to be a lot of investment in the downtown area, and I understand why. Business and stuff, but But I think we need to make investments more in the urban core, because if crime is a major issue, if you change the look of the neighborhood, it impacts crime. It does.
It does. It does.
Well, I think I saw in the news this week an abandoned building where there is activity going on, threats happening to businesses in the area, So it's how fast we can demolish those abandoned buildings that are just standing, causing problems, how we can trim the hedges and the weeds, we can get the trash up. All those are critical.
Right.
All those are critical. And it can be done, and it's being done. But I think Annette may be pointing to a much speedier time to get those things done.
I want us to go back and revisit what we just talked about, these plans that have worked, and see how we can utilize those, but again, do it more at an aggressive pace.
Yeah, I think when we tie this into the whole crime piece, we can no longer have neighborhoods that are primarily low income and not expect to have high levels of crime and violence.
Exactly.
I just think the data supports that what I just said. In the sense, I think that's the problem over there, 42nd and Post Road. You have a density of people in those apartment complexes that are low income, and it is an area that has a lot of crime and violence. I say that if we can find ways to blend those neighborhoods, it reduces the possibility of those areas remaining high levels of crime and violence. And how we do that, I'm not for certain, but I think it's necessary if we're talking about reducing the level of crime and violence that we're seeing in urban cities.
It's a big challenge because a lot of people with income are not comfortable with being around those individuals.
I know they all moved to Pike, didn't they?
But that is the hurdle, and it's a big hurdle.
Yes.
But I think we've tried to sample it here.
Right.
I think there are samples around the state of Indiana. It's not impossible. Financing is the critical piece, and finding ways where you can bring in private money in order to spur that sort of blended neighborhood development.
So who's sponsoring Habitat for Humanity? They seem to target certain neighborhoods, and like I said, I in the next 5 to 10 years, Crown Hill is going to even look much more different than what it is now. And I predict that groups like 10 Point will have a less of a footprint in Crown Hill in 5 or 10 years from now, at the rate that the neighborhood is changing.
Well, that's what we want, though.
Yes.
We want to see the reduction of crime.
Yes. Put us out of business.
I don't know if you're going to be put out of business.
Oh, yeah, but
you just go to another area and clean it up.
But what do we say about those that say, well, that's gentrification, you're pricing me out of the market? That would be the criticism, right?
Well, it would, but can we not build affordable housing in those areas of the city too, like what they're doing, over in the old Citizens area, what they call it, Fall Creek Place now. There is affordable housing in there, and there is rental properties because one of my daughter's friends lives in one of the rental properties, and it's nice. It's nice.
I just think we're going to have to do that. Somehow, when we put the plans together, we have to have the affordable housing piece in it. If investors, want to get credit, and if the grants that we may get, it may ask us to make sure there's a piece of affordable housing. And I noticed that in Pike Township, there's a couple of developments going on. And sometimes, you'll look on the piece, that they have set up with the plans, you may see one area say 80 affordable housing. And people say, well, that's nothing. But we got to start somewhere.
So if the property value goes up in the neighborhood, I think the one concern that we would have to look at is making sure we don't tax people out of their property. With the affordable housing, because if you got a lot of $300,000 homes in an area, does that impact someone who may have purchased their home 30, 40 years ago, for $80,000 and have rehabbed it? Does it raise the tax value when their income is basically stayed the same? I think that would be a concern too, to make sure.
I think the city of Indianapolis has used tax abatement.
Okay.
They've got tools that they use.
Okay, good.
To aid those individuals that are going to stay, but maybe not able to afford at least a breather for a while. Where I think Indianapolis does 6 years. Not sure. I don't know if they do 10-year abatement. But I know there are ways that they can work with residents of home ownership that, if the neighborhood is becoming saturated with higher cost housing, there are tools that can be used to keep people to be able to stay in their neighborhoods.
Well, it seems like to me, John, in that area around 16th Street, it seems like the development is moving east.
Yes.
That is Cross College now moving east. So it's a thought. Okay.
That had always been the thought, to see if it could jump across College.
Okay.
And it's happening.
So that would be moving into the Martindale Brightwood area then as it jumps, as we're moving
That'll be a
east.
jump.
That'd be a jump.
That'd be a big jump.
That'd be a big jump.
Yeah, but it was always thought that let's make it move east.
Okay.
Yeah.
To see if it could go past College. And Mayor Peterson and his crew, did an outstanding job in, setting it up, making them look good. And then, we went into that slump. We went into that housing slump.
Right.
And things sort of stayed still. Now, housing's a little tricky now, but it's growing. Who's that? Mike Epps.
Right.
Picked his area.
That's what, in the Irvington area?
Is he
Mountain Square area?
He's off of
He's off of College?
Somewhere up in there, 24th.
24th and College? Yeah, that would be in the area.
Yeah,
it'd be
up
back
in
up
that area.
back up in that area.
He's making sure to put some investment in.
So that's close to Country Kitchen.
Yes.
Over in that area. Yeah. There's something going on back there, because I was back on one of those streets. Right. So yeah, because that also used to be one of the hot areas in the city. Yeah, for crime and violence. They seem to be doing a lot of as far as development of what looks like condo kind of housing. Okay. I don't know if it's a part, but it seems like a lot of that is going up everywhere now.
Well, you said private investors.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's what's needed to come in to also help.
Right. And the city plays alongside and
Yep, exactly.
But reducing that crime, tearing down those abandoned buildings, keeping the growth real low is going to be your main piece in the getting investment to come in, whether it's public or private.
I just think if you're gonna do a neighborhood like Unwad or the near Northwest area now, it has to be similar to what was done over there in the College area. It has to be aggressive and a big impact. So that if you got 200 or 300 homes in an area, I think that creates a different kind of look and an atmosphere in the neighborhood.
But I think that would be our biggest challenge in Unwad. I bet you can't find 300 lots adjacent to each other.
Well, it would be a challenge because, a lot of the churches have purchased a lot of lots. And I would start with the churches who are interested in selling that property for profit anyway. Amen. Amen. So that I think they have that in mind, that at some point there's going to be investment made into Unwad. So that's why they have purchased the properties.
Wow.
I'm telling the secrets.
But Unwad could work. I mean, you have Golden Hill, you have that area near Golden Hill,
Right,
where that
right.
area is very high end.
Right.
So you just got a parameter of what, 12 blocks, 20 blocks?
Well, there are in that Clifton area. There has been redevelopment taking place in there, and there are a couple homes that are in the $300,000 range. So stuff is going on back up. Yeah, stuff is going on back up in there.
We during the Goldsmith period, what do they call the place right above Naval Avionics? It's Heron School now.
Heron.
But those homes
Out east?
No, right off of over there, right off
of 30th
Street, over in the Riverside area. Yeah, those new homes that was built back there.
River's Edge.
River's Edge, yes,
Right.
yes, River's Edge.
That's
we were
another
hoping
spot.
that was going to
take off.
That area is beautiful back there, but it's just kind of that area.
It's just that area.
Right. Because and maybe
we ain't had no drama back there.
No.
it's beautiful.
No, those are homeowners.
Yeah, we haven't had no drama back
it's
there.
a bike lane that I go through back there.
Yes.
It's beautiful back there.
So the question would be, can
okay, you got something to work with.
Can they trigger something that would go?
It needs to come down though near 30th and Clifton. You're kind of saturating it over where you just said River's Edge, Golden Hill, and then that's it. But and down,
Well,
16
there's a lot of homes that are abandoned from 30th Street to the highway.
Yes,
back up in there.
Really?
Yeah, back up in there.
Yes.
Back in that area that is abandoned. That some development could take place back up in there, which would be needed because that's been a hot area.
It has.
It's been a hot area.
Health-wise and everything. Crime and health-wise.
But I think you got something to look forward to because, they're doing some development over there by Udale.
I know they are.
So that may be something to look forward to.
Right.
I love it.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Well, thank you, John and Annette, for this conversation. And we have basically fixed this problem now that we just need the powers to be to put it into action. But we have fixed it. I want to thank John and Annette for joining me today on Real Talk. We'll talk again soon. I'm Rev Charles Harrison, and this has been Real Talk. Join me next time as we bring more real talk about the real issues that affect our communities here in Indianapolis and across the country. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast and share it on Facebook and Twitter. This is Rev Harrison, and I pray that you have a blessed and awesome day.
This is Real Talk with Reverend Charles Harrison.
Be sure to like and subscribe to this podcast.
And be sure to check out other great podcasts on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
Online now at allindianapodcast.com.